Strategic assets were deployed deep into enemy territory to launch a strike that caught the Kremlin completely off guard. Advanced tracking systems confirm that multiple vital infrastructure targets are currently engulfed in uncontrollable flames across the region.
Join our community for daily deep dives into the shifting dynamics of the war by hitting the subscribe button.
Emergency crews are struggling to contain the inferno as fuel supplies for the Russian military continue to evaporate.
Rumors of a massive withdrawal order have begun to circulate among the frontline troops following the recent strike.
Putin has allegedly ordered a tactical retreat to consolidate his forces and protect the burning heart of Moscow.
Precision strikes have successfully neutralized several ammunition depots, causing a chain reaction of destruction throughout the entire city.
These specialized units have spent months planning this operation to bring the reality of war to Russian soil.
A sense of fear is spreading through the population as the government struggles to maintain control over narratives.
The sudden shift in momentum has forced the Russian high command to reconsider their entire strategy for 2026.
Every successful strike on the capital provides a vital opening for Ukrainian ground forces to reclaim lost territory.
The two capitals are now witnessing the most intense phase of the conflict since the initial invasion began years ago. Leaked documents suggest that the S-400 systems were unable to detect the low-flying drones during the massive strike.
High-ranking generals are holding an emergency meeting to discuss the implications of the unprecedented reach of Ukrainian missiles.
The cost of the war is becoming unbearable for the Kremlin, as their logistical chains continue to snap.
By flying at extremely low altitudes, the drones managed to evade the layered defense network protecting the capital.
The morale of the Russian army is plummeting, as they realize that even their homes are no longer.
This new era of warfare relies on technology and speed to outmaneuver the larger but slower Russian military.
Transportation networks are being severed to prevent the movement of reinforcements toward the front line during this critical hour.
The order to withdraw has left many soldiers confused about their mission, as the lines begin to blur.
Economic instability is compounding the military disaster as investors flee the country in anticipation of further retaliatory strikes.
Long-range aviation capabilities have been significantly degraded after the latest round of precision strikes by the Ukrainian forces. Modern pilots are now operating from hundreds of miles away, while still delivering devastating blows to the enemy.
Even the elite business districts are not immune to the reach of the conflict, as flames spread rapidly.
This operation has redefined the geographic scope of the war, bringing the battlefield directly to the Russian leadership.
Communication blackouts are being reported across several Russian regions as the cyber front also begins to heat up. Sabotage and rail strikes are paralyzing the Russian logistics network, making the withdrawal much more difficult to execute. Experts believe that Putin is running out of options to save his image as the domestic situation worsens.
Security has been tightened to the maximum level as the fear of internal unrest begins to grow steadily.
The integration of advanced Western technology has provided Ukraine with the tools needed to strike at long distances.
Blinding the enemy is the first step in any successful strike, and Ukraine is masterfully targeting radar.
Public confidence in the military's ability to protect the homeland is eroding with every new strike on Moscow. Logistics hubs have become death traps for the retreating forces as they struggle to escape the chaos behind.
СМИ тщательно управляют новостями о выводе войск, чтобы избежать массовой паники среди граждан.
Despite the violence of the strikes, the people of Ukraine remain focused on rebuilding their shattered national economy.
Innovation is the key to survival, as the Ukrainian defense industry works overtime to develop new strike capabilities.
Symbols of state power are being targeted to send a clear message to the Russian ruling elite tonight.
The strategic retreat is being described as a necessary move to regroup, but the losses are staggering indeed.
Vital transit points are being contested, as the retreat turns into a desperate struggle for survival and control.
Ground operations are continuing alongside the air campaign to ensure that the retreating forces have no safe haven.
Secondary explosions are continuing for hours as the vast stockpiles of the Russian army are systematically destroyed tonight.
The international community is bracing for the potential escalation as Russia reacts to the strike on its capital.
The withdrawal is stretching across thousands of miles of track as the military attempts to salvage their equipment.
Digital warfare is playing a crucial role in disabling the response capabilities of the Russian military command center. Defensive measures are being heightened in the Ukrainian capital as they anticipate a massive retaliatory strike from Moscow. The war is hollowing out the Russian countryside as thousands of men are sent to the front lines.
Every technological advantage is being exploited to ensure that the next strike on Moscow is even more effective.
The glorious history of the Russian military is being tarnished by the current failures on the modern battlefield.
Global support for Ukraine remains strong as they continue to defend their territory against the Russian invasion forces.
Personal stories of loss and confusion are emerging from the ranks as the retreat order is finally implemented.
Infrastructure targets are being prioritized to disrupt the daily life of the Russian population and the ruling elite. Multiple diversionary strikes were used to confuse the radar operators before the main attack was launched at Moscow.
Focus and determination are the hallmarks of the teams responsible for executing these high-stakes, long-range drone missions.
Small-scale sabotage is adding to the chaos as the authority of the central government begins to slowly weaken. Air patrols are being increased to search for the hidden launch sites used by the Ukrainian drone operators.
The harsh winter conditions are complicating the retreat and making logistical movements almost impossible for the Russian army.
The scars of the war are visible everywhere, but the spirit of the people remains unbroken and strong.
The disconnect between the state narrative and the reality on the ground is becoming impossible to ignore tonight.
New launch methods are being developed to ensure that the drones can be deployed quickly and without detection.
Political tensions are rising in the capital as lawmakers begin to question the future of the military campaign.
Information is the most valuable commodity on the battlefield, and both sides are fighting to control it today.
Disabling the enemy's ability to coordinate is a primary objective of the ongoing Ukrainian air and ground offensive.
The human cost of the war is being felt in every corner of Russia as the casualties mount.
Maintaining the home front is just as important as the strikes on Moscow for the Ukrainian national effort.
Ukraine's air defense teams are working around the clock to protect their cities from the expected Russian retaliation. Economic pressure on the Russian elite is continuing to increase as the war reaches a critical new phase.
The medical infrastructure of the Russian military is being pushed to the breaking point by the high casualties.
Nowhere is safe for the Russian military as the reach of Ukrainian drones continues to expand every day.
Economic anxiety is driving a run on the banks as the stability of the currency remains in doubt.
The capital has been turned into a fortress as the threat of further strikes remains a constant reality.
National pride is being fueled by the successful strikes as the population rallies behind the military's bold actions. The naval front remains a concern for the international community as Russia attempts to project its power globally.
Logistical nightmares are becoming the norm for the retreating Russian forces as the infrastructure continues to crumble.
Cyber attacks are being used to gather intelligence and disrupt the command and control of the Russian army.
camaraderie, and high morale are keeping the Ukrainian forces focused on their mission to liberate their country.
The industrial heart of Russia is being targeted to prevent the production of new tanks and military equipment.
The ground offensive is being coordinated with the airstrikes to maximize the pressure on the Russian defenses.
Hackers have repeatedly targeted state media to broadcast the truth about the war to the Russian people.
Intelligence sharing between Ukraine and its allies is providing a significant advantage on the modern battlefield today. Thousands of young men are being lost in a conflict that many now see as a disaster.
The naval capabilities of the Black Sea Fleet are being further degraded by the ongoing Ukrainian strikes.
Despite the constant threat of attack, the cities of Ukraine continue to function and support the effort.
Precision is the key to minimizing civilian casualties, while still achieving the primary military objectives of the strike.
The intensity of the fighting is reaching a fever pitch as the Russian forces attempt to retreat.
The steady flow of supplies is essential for maintaining the momentum of the Ukrainian defense and offensive.
The realization that the war is no longer confined to Ukraine is causing a deep internal crisis. The entire population is involved in the defense as the war enters this new and dangerous phase.
Concerns about the safety of nuclear facilities are growing as the conflict edges closer to these sites. Skill and precision are required to navigate the drones through the complex air defenses surrounding the capital.
The logistics of the withdrawal are a massive undertaking that will take weeks to complete fully today.
The image of a burning capital will remain a powerful symbol of the current failure of leadership. Recognition for the daring missions is boosting the spirits of the forces as they continue to fight.
The narrative of the war is being contested on the streets of Russia as the situation worsens.
The scale of the drone campaign is increasing as new production lines come online in the country.
The physical toll of the war is evident in the faces and actions of the retreating soldiers. Blind spots are being created in the Russian air defense network to facilitate more deep strike drone missions.
The success of the strikes is providing a sense of justice for the people of the country.
Counter-battery fire is being used to protect the advancing Ukrainian ground forces during the current offensive operations.
Contradictory statements from the government are adding to the sense of confusion and lack of clear direction.
The beauty of the landscape is a stark contrast to the destruction wrought by the invasion forces.
Hunting the logistics of the enemy is a key part of the strategy to disable their combat.
Private conversations are where the real impact of the war is being discussed by the Russian people.
The abandonment of command posts is a clear sign of the speed of the current Russian withdrawal.
Economic targets are being hit to reduce the financial resources available to the Russian military machine tonight.
Infrastructure is being secured to ensure the smooth movement of forces and supplies toward the frontline zones.
Coordination between air and ground assets is reaching new levels of efficiency in the current military campaign.
The government is attempting to project a sense of normalcy despite the fires burning in the city.
Monitoring the space assets of the enemy is a vital part of the global effort to support.
The task of identifying the fallen is a grim reminder of the high human cost of war.
Disrupting the supply of new weapons is a primary objective of the ongoing Ukrainian deep strike campaign tonight.
The psychological impact of drones over the capital is immense and deeply unsettling for the Russian leadership.
Careful planning and intelligence are the foundations of the current series of successful strikes on the capital.
High-level officials are reportedly being moved to secure locations as the threat of further strikes increases.
The recovery of the land will take years as the remnants of the conflict are slowly cleared.
Precision navigation is essential for avoiding civilian areas while targeting the key military assets of the enemy.
Younger generations are increasingly aware of the truth, despite the government's efforts to control the national narrative.
Preparing for the future of the conflict requires constant training and the integration of new tactical methods.
Disillusionment with the war is leading some soldiers to question their loyalty to the current Russian leadership.
Targeting the industrial infrastructure is causing long-term damage to the military and economic capacity of the state.
The world is watching the events in Russia with a mix of concern and hope for peace.
Tracking the movements of the enemy is essential for planning the next phase of the Ukrainian offensive.
Internal security is being tightened as the fear of sabotage and protests grows in the Russian capital. The winter landscape is a silent witness to the failure of the invasion and the subsequent retreat.
Cutting off the energy supplies of the military is a key component of the ongoing strike campaign.
The home front remains a vital part of the overall effort to defend the country from invasion.
The true scale of the losses is becoming impossible to hide as the cemeteries continue to expand.
Protecting the civilian population remains the top priority for the Ukrainian air defense teams during this hour.
The contrast between the broadcast and the reality of the fires is a source of deep confusion.
The production of long-range strike capabilities is accelerating to meet the demands of the current military offensive.
Personal motivations and fears are the primary concerns for the men caught in the middle of war.
Precision components for the Russian military are being lost as key production facilities are hit by drones.
Resilience and determination are the hallmarks of a nation that refuses to be conquered by its neighbor.
Eliminating the leadership of the enemy units is a priority for the ongoing Ukrainian strike missions tonight.
Ground operations are being conducted with stealth and speed to catch the retreating Russian forces off guard.
Clear goals and a well-defined strategy are the keys to the ongoing success on the modern battlefield.
A sense of gloom is descending on the capital as the scale of the failure becomes apparent. The restoration of sovereignty is the ultimate goal of the struggle, and every strike brings it closer.
The strikes have changed the course of the war, and the world will never be the same.